Welcome, beautiful souls. Rachele here, your host of Sovereign Heart, and I've got one of my all-time favorite people in the world with me here today. She is a dear friend and honestly, the true definition of what it means to be an entrepreneur. She has done everything in business, probably everything from operations, marketing, consulting, coaching, and also being multiple founders and run multiple startups in multiple different industries as well. So we've got a lot to pick her brain on. So I am really excited to talk to Laura. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Rochelle. I'm stoked to be here.
So I want to start because this is how I usually start. How would you define the word sovereignty in your terms?
Oh, geez. Sovereignty. It's not a word that I think about. Okay, let me think for one quick sec. Um, I think I would actually define sovereignty as the thing that I've been doing for the last year-ish, year and a half. I got really, really burnt out in my tech startup in the last year, just going full tilt for 6 years through the pandemic, all the things. Um, And what I really noticed was that coming back to me, things that bring me joy, tapping into what makes me me,
Mm,
I would say that that is actually how I would define becoming sovereign again. So
mm,
really fully expressing, and it takes time to step away and realize what those things even are. Like, what am I conditioned by other people, or what is actually mine? Um,
yeah.
so I would say like really taking a step back and breathing in my own space by myself to understand even who I am. So it's like liberation and sovereignty and everything all in one.
I love that. It's really like what you're claiming is like a homecoming in a sense of just like reconnecting back to self is how you feel most you, which when you feel most aligned in you, that's where you feel in your power and that spark comes back and more alive, I imagine.
Hmm. Yeah, like back to my own character and like what is my personality without all the influences and responsibilities and everything like that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Well, all that being said, I would love to hear what happened to get you to this point because you've got a fascinating story that I think is different than most. You've been in entrepreneurship and in this world your entire life. And I'm sure there are so many lessons that you've learned along the way. So I love hearing people's stories to where they came from to how they got to where they are today. So I would love to hear more of yours.
oh my gosh, yeah, my entire life. That's so true. Um, let's start in 1982. No, just kidding. Um, yeah, I grew up with entrepreneurial parents. So my dad was a commercial realtor, so buying and selling gas stations, shopping malls, etc., things like that. So the epitome of rich and poor. So if
Mm,
you sell, a $2 million gas station, oh, you're pretty good for a few months or a year, but it takes like up to 3 years to sell these things.
yeah.
So, feast or famine was like literally my entire childhood. Um, One thing that I really valued that I see now, maybe not at the time because we were always kind of all over the place, didn't have the fancy vacations, but then sometimes we did, like a lot of the other kids. But what I really value now is that we always had togetherness. And I think that's what we see in like third world countries and developing nations is that they may not have the financial means, but they always have community. So
Hmm.
that's what it really always came back to for us was we didn't go to these really crazy expensive places, but we would go camping and we would really be in community with each other. So while we lacked money, we never lacked belonging, love, these kind of things.
Yeah.
So when I translate that into my life now, knowing how to like feast and famine, like starve and survive and make money last when times are good, especially in my tech startup, it's like you might get a capital injection of $2 million or something, but how do you make that last
Yeah.
2 years, or what's the plan for that versus blowing it all right away and then being in the starvation mode? So it was while it was challenging at the time, and it still always is challenging, but I know how to ride those waves. And I'm actually comfortable in discomfort, which is really weird to say. But a lot of times it's like, for me, it's like, okay, now I have nothing. Oh, great. The only way to go is up. So
Mm.
it's creating things from that.
How did you though get that level of resiliency so naturally? Because I get that like being raised in it, it's familiar, like feast and famine, ups and downs, which really primes you for entrepreneurship, which it's not for everyone. You have to be prepared for those ups and downs, but this mindset of like everything's going to work out. How do you stay there when you're not there financially or even just like even client wise or things are not clicking in business or you're in a startup? Like how do you stay in that frequency?
It's really freaking hard.
Yeah.
I will say, because I moved to Vancouver from Toronto. I moved to Vancouver about 8 years ago, and I lived abroad for about 10 years before that. Um, so when I moved here was a time when I was forced to sell all the real estate holdings that I had through breakup, through, marriage dissolving, that kind of thing. So I had to really reevaluate and look at everything. So it was a time when I like didn't really have anything. I had no friends, no community, didn't know anybody here when I moved here. And so it was kind of exciting because I was like, there's nothing to lose.
Right.
I've been here before, moving away for school. Then I moved abroad for a long time. So, like, really having that resiliency and ability to create community from nothing. Um, it does get a lot easier. And I think what it is the familiarity of like, I know how to do this. Now, it's not good to stay there and keep rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding. So that's kind of, I'm in my 40s now. That's kind of where I am. I'm like, I don't want to rebuild. I want to build on what I have now.
Mm.
So that's kind of been a shift in mindset. Um, because for me that is easy and that is comfortable and that is familiar. But how do I? This is what I'm working on and going through now. How do I stay where I'm at and break through to the next level and actually push myself and up level beyond the like rags to riches all the time?
Yeah, I think that's something so important to recognize because I think there is a pattern with us more strong, independent women is we can do it really well when things are really hard. Um, Similarly to your story, through my divorce is actually when everything shifted for the better in my life through that like real intense struggle. And I don't know about you, but I had a very conscious moment where I was like, I do not want things to always come at such a trauma-based, intense lesson anymore. Like I like was pleading to like God and the universe, like I'm learning the lessons with ease now. I'm not always gonna go and learn it through some really crazy intense time. And at the same time, I'm grateful for those lessons because it brought me to where I am today and gives me empathy with so many aspects of my work. And so I'm curious for you as well, like shifting into it doesn't always have to come through immense amount of struggle and strife and challenge.
Yeah, and I think like the cliche as a woman, it's like coming back to the worth piece, right?
Mm,
So it's like, okay, well, I am worthy of reaching the next level and the next stage. And I do know who I am in my core, and I am capable of that. And also, like, who I'm surrounding myself by. This has been a really big. So, I lived away for a year. About a year ago, I came back. And what I really saw being down in another country, in the States mostly, and what I saw is that, like, the mentality of people where we live in Canada in business is quite small comparatively.
hmm
And so really consistently improving and being around certain people, thinking a lot bigger, listening to different books, and just putting myself in situations that really stretch me and scare me, but in a good way. Um, being the dumbest one in the room.
And
It's
being okay with that.
and being okay with that, and knowing that no question is a dumb question, and
Yeah.
and being willing to grow. And I think especially as women we often shy away from that, whether it's, finance is a really really big one for women, that they, oh, it goes over my head, and they shy away from it.
hmm
But if we can ask questions, I remember back in the day when crypto was brand new and early and all the things back in like 2016, 17, me and one of my female friends would go to all the events and we would ask all the questions. And because we showed up and we asked the questions, we were able to understand certain things and get into certain things early and do well. But
Mm-hmm.
so many people, women especially, don't even put themselves in the room, right? So I would say, like, me looking to up level and surround myself by people who are smarter than me, richer than me, faster than me, better than me. Um, that's actually what I'm focusing on now and what I really want to continue with.
Yeah, I
And
love
that's
that.
not to say that I'm letting go of anybody. It's just where I spend my time and choosing what is important for me to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for like a collective frequency when you're in a room with certain people, you can't help but level up your life. There's no playing small in rooms where people are playing big. It's
Mm,
just not possible. And what I heard in that is, and this is my word that you may not even really realize, but it takes an immense amount of courage to put yourself in those rooms and not know what you're walking into and being authentic and being like unabashedly unafraid to ask those questions so that you can then facilitate some of those rooms in the future so that you can be the thought leader and not shy away from always learning, because I think that's also really such a key component to entrepreneurship is this ever curiosity and willingness to always learn, and you never know who you're going to learn from, and everything is a lesson really in retrospect. And so I heard there too, it takes an amount of like courage mixed with humility to
mm,
really be putting yourself in those situations that might be uncomfortable or unfamiliar, but knowing it's going to help you expand.
yeah. Yeah. And part of the expansion might be how annoying that room is and how dumb that you do feel in those places, right? And like you said, the humility of that, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And if
Yeah,
you aren't willing to go out and seek out these new opportunities and stretch yourself, like I love networking. That's super easy for me. I can go talk to anybody at any time. That's not the case for many people. So, for people who are afraid of that or don't enjoy that, I would definitely encourage to push those boundaries and just show up anyways, even if you're standing in the corner saying nothing. Like you said, the energy of the space and the collective brain power of what's going on and being part of that. Because that in itself is inspiring, even just leaving the house sometimes, right?
exactly. Well, and you're such a good, like, this is what I'll say. Get yourself a wing woman to do those things with. Laura has been my wing woman many times because she's really good at networking and making talk with people that maybe I don't always feel as skilled at. But what I had to realize was stepping into those rooms just takes practice. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like everyone is an expert at something. No one's in your brain but you, so you
Mm-hmm.
have something to share with this world. Everyone does. And
Yeah.
realizing that most people, A, want to be asked questions about themselves, and then B, also want to hear what you're passionate about and excited about. And if you're going into a marketing meeting or networking thing and you're talking about your dog, like women are relational and we can really own that fact. And that's exciting because people remember how they feel talking to you, less about what your business is or your strategy is or whose business card was what. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with that?
I think the biggest thing that people remember, two things. People remember stories.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get into storyteller mode and stories really stick versus being talked at or told
Yeah.
things. And the second thing is people remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So if you got nothing else to say, hype them up. And if you've got
Exactly.
nothing to add, just hype people up. And people remember that and they'll like you because you made them feel awesome, right? So it's those two things combined. And if you can nail storytelling, I'm not the best storyteller. I'm trying to improve because I know that's super important. But people remember the hooks of stories, the details of stories, and taking up the space to be okay to tell the story and allow yourself to be heard. Like
Mm-hmm.
most people are too afraid to talk anyway or don't have things to share, so they're great and happy to listen.
Yeah, yeah. A fascinating thing happened to me at one of the events that you and I went to not too long ago. I went to the bathroom and bumped into someone who was like fixing her hair, and she was like, "Oh, I like your bag." And I was like, "Oh, I like your lipstick." And we chatted back and forth for a bit. And I was like, "Oh, like what brings you here?" And we were just like having a genuine like chit chat. We didn't even talk business or nothing.
Yeah.
And then we get to the main kind of, I guess, like entrance area where people are mingling. And we start chatting, and she's like, "Oh, do you mind if I go grab a drink at the bar? I want to calm my nerves." And I was like, "Oh, like, I get it. These things are kind of nerve-wracking." Then she goes, "No, I'm actually a panelist." And I was like, "Oh." And she informed me that even as a panelist at a networking event, she was nervous to network. And she was invited there as an expert. And I really want to emphasize that because nerves are not the reason to not do the thing. And at least that's what I'm hearing in a lot of what you're sharing too. It's like getting uncomfortable and making that be kind of exhilarating, not limiting in any way, shape, or form. And she even said to me, she was like, one of the hardest things that I have to do is be authentic in my work environment. And she works in tech, and she was like, it's hard being a woman in tech, and it's
Mhm.
hard being authentic in a room of men when they're in business. They don't see me as equal, even though I'm a successful founder. And I would love to pick your brain about that, because I imagine some of those stereotypes get shoved onto you, or you probably feel some of those stigmatisms. What has been your experience with that?
Yeah, interesting. I was just away for work at an event and I felt this. It was quite broy. But the tech world and the business world is. Um, and there was about 30 women in the room, 70 men. And my big takeaway from that, and I actually suggested it to them, is I would have loved to have had a breakout with the women because
Mm,
women talk differently, they bond differently. When there's like two women at a table and six guys, we have to like fight for attention and fight for the table. And like, I just don't want to do that anymore. Like, I'm
no.
exhausted. My testosterone is high. My cortisol is off the charts because we're having to show up and play in that realm. However, what I've noticed is that when I am either talking to women, exactly like you said, I'm talking to them because I like them. We're relating on
Yeah.
something else. We don't even know what each other does, but people do business with people they like, men and women. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been my approach. It's like, I don't even need to tell you what I do. My business partner, who's a guy, can tell you what we do, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to like bring the fun, bring the joy, start the dance floor. Let's get everybody having a good time and break the ice. And men and women both really appreciate that because they are in their head. They're very much talking business, thinking logically. So if I can bring in that play and that fun and just part of being a woman in the tech world, I get away with a lot. And I like that. I can wear different
Mm-hmm.
things. I can be more casual or more dressy. I can say different things in a more casual way. I don't feel like I have to go above and beyond and impress. I do feel like I can be myself more and I can be more like playful, I guess you could say. I didn't used to feel that way. I used to feel like, okay, I have to be like serious and they got to take me seriously and all this stuff. And eventually that doesn't work because I got burnt out and all the things. And I was like, that's not actually who I am. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
character, I'm a personality, I'm playful. I like to do different things and poke fun at people. And I feel like as women, it's a bit of a softer landing, and guys are more receptive to that. And so I've been leaning into that a lot more. And it's been really, really great. And it's been giving my business partner permission to be more that way as well. Like, not all just business. Like, let's go have fun. Let's play at the casino or do whatever we're doing as well. Part of the event that I was just away for, half of it was work and half of it was fun. And the part
Interesting.
that we did, so I went fly fishing, I went fishing,
Cool.
and that was my choice. And other people went whitewater rafting and all the things. But the bonding that happened when we were having fun was 10 times the amount of when we were networking and
Yeah.
learning and on the panels and whatever, because we were just uninhibited. And I was, hanging out with people who had done, 250 million a year and who had raised 100 million for their company and they have 300 employees. And I'm like, cool, you're just a dude fishing on the river with me right now.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
like normalizes people versus us being like, oh wow, you're so much better than me and all this stuff, because that's not even true, right?
Mm-hmm. They're just someone who figured something out that you haven't figured out yet, but that doesn't mean they're better or worse or anything different. And I think there's something to be said for, I think the chemical in our brain is called oxytocin, where it's like it's not oxytocin. It's a different one with an O, but it's a bonding chemical that brings people together. And men particularly thrive really well on that chemical. And now I'm gonna put in the show notes because it's gonna
I think it is
irk me.
oxytocin.
No, that's the cuddling one. There's another one.
Okay.
Um, anyway, it might be oxytocin, but I'll put in the show notes either way.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for bonding through an experience rather than just bonding through um problem solving or
Yeah.
just like that chit chat, right? And I see this with women in business as well. Men do really well doing activities and physical activities and bonding together. It's a masculine energy is very much like that. They love to like, I think that's also why certain networking things are a bit more broy because guys like to problem solve. So they're like, how can you fix my problem? I just want to know and get to the point.
Mhm.
Whereas women and then are feminine, like what you described, like you owning that you're more playful and relational and want to bring in more joy and more fun is such a more feminine way of operating. And both roads lead to success.
Mhm.
And realizing that, like, when paired together, that's when so much magic can happen. And it sounds like you kind of almost like physically experience that in the fly fishing component where you bonded with men and women through an experience and you brought your both perspectives and it like connected you in a way that perhaps just chatting or just the business acumen logic brain on simply can't.
Yeah, and like it gets us out of our head, right? So when
Yeah.
you're on the river with people doing whatever, like whatever you're hanging out doing, all of a sudden we're kind of equal, right? Like we don't know each other, we don't know the backgrounds, but then later you find out and you're like, oh, okay, well, I've already had a cool experience with that person. Instead of they're talking to you and you're like, oh, okay, well, I haven't done 100 million in sales. I don't have 300 employees. I can't, he's way up here and I'm here. Oh gosh, like, but it's almost like an equal playing field.
Hmm.
And in business, often, especially at networking events, we only look at the one thing, just the facts. And what have you done? What are the stats? Versus like, who are you? Are you like an incredible golfer? Are you committed to whatever sport or whatever music or whatever thing you are? Because I really believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Hmm.
Like if you're like I'm a golfer, so you're in music, right? So if you are committed to an instrument, that's who you are. You're going to commit and you're going to do really well at it because that's your purpose and you're an entrepreneur, and so that translates. It's the same as golf. Like I'm going to play and practice and do the best I can. Um, so it's literally a metaphor for life and for business and how everything translates when we are expressing our human spirit and whatever that is, art, sport, all those kind of things.
Exactly. I think that interconnectedness is, I think, what women bring into the business world because we can see that and the relational components between all of that. Because your relationship, say, with your business partner, those same wounds might show up in your intimate partnership and they may show up in your bank account or in your relationship with your bank account, and they show up in your relationship to yourself. And some of those same patterns are themes that I think women can grasp a lot easier because compartmentalizing does a disservice to us. It really does.
Mm,
Because we put these different hats on and then we have all these different roles and then we burn out going like, oh, what hat was I supposed to wear here? What hat was I supposed to wear
yeah.
here? And we're just like, and thus the burnout when really ultimately we realize like you said, the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. And so instead of trying to be a certain way in a certain environment, be you.
Hmm.
And recognize some of those patterns that are working and not working for you. Um, what are some of the patterns that you realize that are working for you that translate in life and love and business?
Oh, good question. What patterns are working for me?
Or the ones that don't that you're aware of too. We can talk both sides.
Yeah, fear is a big one for me that's not working well. I
How does
used to
that
be
show up?
well, I used to be that person that would trust everything and be like, I trust that it's for the best good. I trust that it's working out for me. Like I totally used to be that person. And what I really see is that it's the weird annoying cliche that when you have it all, there's a lot to lose. And
Mm,
so I've never really been in the position where I've had a great company, a great partner, love my friends, love where I live, love my everything, my city. I've never really had that. So um, when it's at that, well, actually, the last time I had that was in high school before everything crashed, when my parents split up and everything kind of
ah,
got taken away. Lots of things
mhm,
happened. So maybe it's a bit of a PTSD or something, but it's also like it's been a long time since I've been at that place. And now it's like, okay, so either I can go up and up level and push, or I mean, staying the same doesn't really happen anyways, but or it's like I'm gonna lose it all again. So the fear when you have everything, it's like almost hard to enjoy it because you're like, well, what if I lose it all, right?
mhm.
And what does that mean? And like, how am I gonna, I know that I will build myself back up if that were to happen, but I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So it's really a big mind game of me that I'm constantly working on. It's like, okay, great, how do I actually get to the next level and allow myself and know that I'm good and know that I'm okay and push and be around different people who inspire me, because I don't want to go back to losing it all. I know how to build from nothing. And
Mhm.
maybe that's why nothing, like having nothing, is comfortable, because I'm like, great, the only way to go is up. There's nowhere to go down from having nothing, right?
Yeah.
So that's been really what I've been looking at and working on a lot this past year, is like, okay, really sinking in, like, who am I and how do I go to the next level and allow myself, how do I feel like I deserve it? And like it's been a bit of a mind game too with all of that.
Yeah. It's a bit of like sounds like attachment and detachment patterns as well. And I think something that doesn't get talked about at least too much, and I have this same fear as you, but this is at least my words around it. I don't have a fear of failure. I'm like, I'm fine. I can screw up. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't get embarrassed very easily. Like I'm like you, like put myself in the room and okay, I don't know. Cool. Nice to learn something new. We can pick ourselves back up. But the fear of success is honestly a stranger thing to articulate because
Mm,
it's that point where, yeah, you get everything you want, and now what? And I think sometimes our nervous systems and our minds create these invisible glass ceilings of what those benchmarks mean and what happens when you reach those benchmarks and then what's next. And I think that the common thought is, well, if I want more than that, I'm scared that if I want more, then I might lose something else in order to get more. And then there are also these very common beliefs that a lot of women carry of I'm selfish for asking for more. How can I even, begin to accept even more than I ever desired? And everything is working out for me. And holy crap, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
mhm.
These mindsets. And you're smiling here because I'm sure you've had some of these concerns and thoughts too. And you know, I don't have an answer. I do this work and I find the answers as I'm doing this work with my
Yeah.
clients. Um, but I'm curious, even just for you to just expand on what you're hearing me say, and we can riff off this a bit because I think there's something really juicy in here.
Yeah, it's years ago I read a book called The Big Leap. Don't know if
Mhm.
you've heard of it or read it, by Gay Hendricks. And he talks about, on the cover it's a goldfish outgrowing his bowl, right? The
Yeah.
classic. But he talks about your upper limit. And when we reach our upper limit, it's like who we see ourselves as. And when we reach the upper limit, we sabotage because,
Hmm.
oh, I'm not that person that has that thing or that can grow to that piece. So honestly, like I would say one of the biggest changes and the biggest pushes in my life has been having my tech company. Been in the company for 6 years, started the company from an idea. I used to be terrified to speak on stage and pushed through that, continued on with that. We've raised millions of dollars. We've got employees. I've never been in this situation before, dealing with investor money, having a big company that's looking to go global. Okay, so I've done those things. And now what? Now we're trying to raise even more money and go even more global and really hold that huge vision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what that takes. I've been doing a lot of um, my own growth and expansion, and that goes with microdosing and with therapies and with just like holding bigger visions.
Hmm.
And if I don't reach the huge vision, okay, well, where else am I going to land? And that's okay too. But even allowing myself to dream, it's like, well, why not me? And I think this
Hmm.
comes back to who you're around. Because if, when I was living in, let's say, I don't know, small town England, I was like, who am I to do this thing? And
Yeah.
then when I was staying in LA, I was like, wait, everybody in this room's a billionaire. Who am I not to do this thing? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why not me? And really, it's who you're surrounded by. Same as the goldfish. It's like when you're stuck in a tiny bowl, you're going to grow to the size of your bowl. You go into the ocean and you can grow way bigger. So, who you're around, who you're surrounded by, how people are thinking, how people are affecting your mind, not necessarily what they're thinking, but how they're thinking, the size of their thinking and their vision that they can hold. So, it's it's challenging for women who play high, men as well who play high, to be around people who play even higher. And
Hmm.
also, who am I to be in that room with those billionaires? Who am I to be in that room with those high flyers? I'm just XYZ person from small town. Right?
Hmm.
So really, it's not easy because it's a constant challenge. And what I'm really working on is seeing myself differently. What is the view that I see myself? Sometimes when I see myself on camera or video, I'm like, oh, who's that person? Like, I don't recognize, in a good way and in a bad way. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm not being what I really feel inside. Or, wow, I'm being way more expanded than how I actually feel that I am.
Yeah.
Um, this obviously taps into some human design stuff as well, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you talk to people in your sphere about. Um, but it's like part of my design to continue to push. I'm a button pusher. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to make changes. I'm here to do different things. And it's part of my destiny, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's part of why I'm here. And if I don't do that, then I feel like I'm shriveling and not expressing. And really, truly, at the end of the day, we're all here to live our full expression, whatever that looks like,
Hmm.
right?
And sometimes I think what I really want to acknowledge and speak to for those who are listening is it's really scary to push yourself to those limits when you realize that relationships might be out of alignment, or circumstances or environments might be out of alignment, and the grief that can come with that realization. I think one of the biggest questions, because I work with a lot of growth-oriented women like yourself as well, and it can be really scary to actually face the question of, what if I grow out of my partner, or what if I grow out of my business, or what if I grow out of my city, and what that takes to really come head to head with those deeper, darker questions. And when to let that question be intuitive, and to know that that's like a sign to take things to the next level, or whether that's a sign to see what you can make happen as you grow. Have you ever had any of those questions pop up in your mind? Because I know they've popped up in mine and many of my clients as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I lived abroad for like 10 years. I lived in England and in Australia, and they think differently than Canadians and Americans. Like, we're very like growth orientated and like expansive. Not to say they're not, but they're pretty happy with where they're at for the most part. And I found that very challenging because I am super ambitious, and I don't identify as a type A person. I don't really like those labels, but I'm like, well, I remember living in Australia and a lot of the people would just want to like work a simple job and surf all day. I'm like, but don't you want to build cool stuff and do things and like make changes and like,
Yeah.
again, back to my heretic button pusher in
Hmm.
human design. I'm like, but I want to like change policies and like make things happen and do different things, and then maybe I'll be a professor one day and I'll do this over here. And they're just like, nah, man, I just want to like surf. I'm like, do my thing. I'm like, I don't get it. I can't relate. Sometimes I wish I could because my life would be probably happier in a way and simpler in a way. But
Maybe.
then coming back to Canada, and I'm not a hustle person either, so it's a bit of a balance, and that's probably why I liked LA. It's like West Coast, but still a city and all the things, and obviously
Hmm.
America is a bit more get up and go than Canada is. Um, but it's why I really resonate with entrepreneurship and people who are building big things, and just about, it's not even about the ego. It's like making change and making what's inside, and that like urge to like make things happen and occur, and to see that come to fruition, to
Yeah.
see those things on paper and to see them happen, and to be part of it, to be part of something incredible. Like, obviously I don't want to be famous, I don't want to be, having celebrity status, but like to be known in a field and do the best work that I can do, like that's my drive. And that goes for playing golf and for doing my company and for being a friend and showing up for people. So it kind of translates. And I think like really getting to know that that's my truth. I'm not someone who's just laissez-faire and laying back and, you know, I need to relax more.
Hmm.
But that's another piece that I'm working on, is like rest and relaxation. Um, but even that's part of, the growth piece. So,
And I think too, finding your balance and what feels good for you and your body and not judging what that looks like, but finding it and figuring it out is, I think, so important too in the growth journey because, you know, in contrast, back to like, reaching those glass ceilings or the fishbowl,
mhm,
like there is also a point where you push, push, push yourself for more, more, more. And then that becomes almost the in a way addiction to more and more and more success. And then we see these archetypes of people who are miserable and lonely and they don't have anyone because they've been so single focused on, having that one thing that everything drops away. And finding kind of a balance between having a relationship and having a life and also having a successful business, I think is um so nuanced to the individual, and also realizing how vital it is to pick the right people, like you've said a few times now, to surround yourself with who get your vision. Because I
mhm,
think the thing for those who are worried, like, oh, I'm outgrowing, say, my relationship, is really being honest with your partner and having those conversations of are they willing to grow with you? Because this is the other thing is like sometimes we also need to be the one leading the way, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so
mhm,
sometimes at least in my journey of stepping into leadership as a 6'2" in human design, I've really had to own that I'm like kind of meant to lead the pack, and that's really my lot in life. And so recognizing that I'm probably going to be the one that's like, come on, guys, let's go. Versus like, I'm going to follow you and what you're doing is not necessarily my best way of operating. And so also being with people who are willing to come with you on the journey, I think is also key. And realizing like, let's not put limitations on what we think the people that we love and know can do, because this is kind of where things go stagnant in friendships or even in business partner relationships or intimate partner relationships, is you like, oh, I just assume that they're not ready for this, or oh, they don't want to do this or come with me to this thing or participate in that. And it's like, but you're also then limiting their capacity for growth when we do that. And that's why I want to say is like growth oriented women need growth oriented people in their life, but sometimes they need to see you do it first.
yeah, and there's different ways of growth, right? Like I would
Hmm.
say that my spouse, um, he is more of a homebody than me, and that's a shift for me because I like to go out and do different things and be a bit crazy. But that's been a growth edge of like learning to relax, be at home, be happy at home.
Hmm.
Whether I was like, who knows, running away from the home because of like stuff that happened in my past, I don't know, or like uncomfortable, maybe home life sometimes growing up, let's just say. But it's like, oh, okay, home is actually really great too. And
Yeah.
so that's been a growth for me to just like slow down and have alone time and be good with that and be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I see a lot of women, especially, who kind of are afraid to be alone. And
Yeah.
maybe I used to be that a little bit, like always out, always doing something, always listening to a book or doing this or involved in that or like constantly. So when are we like alone with our thoughts to actually rest, recuperate? So it's like a slingshot, right? Like I really see it as that. It's like the pulling back is like when you're resting, recuperating, chilling out, and then once you, it's like again going to the gym too, have a rest day, right? So once
Mhm.
you've rested, then you can like propel forward at a major speed because you've given yourself, you filled up your own cup again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
So
cyclical living as a woman in business, I think, is really not talked about enough. Even though we talk about it in, say, at brunch, but we don't
yeah.
necessarily talk about it as how it impacts how we show up for our businesses and for our bodies and for our capacity. And then that leads to the ever dreaded burnout that so many women toe that line of, as it's like common practice to keep up
Mhm.
with the Joneses or whatever that phrase is, right? And understanding that women have two different, we're operating on our 28-day moon cycle, and then we're also operating with the circadian rhythm of the day. And we're in a society now where it's very operating just on the circadian rhythm of the day because that's how men operate. And
Mhm.
women are in the workforce now. Women are creating businesses right now. And so where in life can we step into cyclical living and honoring our cycles as business owners? And I'm curious if you've ever had any roadblocks around there, having a male business partner, or if there's been any awarenesses for you in your business around how to maybe integrate more of that into the way that you operate.
Totally. And the challenging thing for me, my team is about 50% men, 50% women. The challenging thing for me has been if I don't do it and set the example, then the women in the company, right, get left behind or whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
Um, so that's been, a lot of challenge for me to step into the courage of being like, hey, this isn't working, or hey, this is what I really need, or we have a flexible hybrid work schedule now. Like nobody needs to come to the office. If you want to, great. Didn't used to be that way. Obviously,
Yeah.
COVID helped that, but also it's just like I've been pushed to step up to make that example for everybody else. And even for me to be like, oh, here's what I need, but it's not even just me. It's here's what all the women need, who the future women who will come to the company as well.
Yeah.
And that's definitely taken a lot of courage. And that has not been easy because, having male business partner and also being in a male dominated industry in tech, in real estate, in fintech, all that stuff. Um, it's gotten better. It's gotten better with the whole industry, but it is broy and they do want to do certain things that women just aren't really interested in doing when we're out at events and whatnot. Um, and we do get excluded because of that. And I don't want to keep up. I don't want to network the way that men
Mhm.
network by like, hey, here's my name. Here's what do I do? Da, 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 da. It's just like, wow, I don't even care. Like, who are you? Who are you
Yeah.
as a person? Like, talk to me for a minute. And
Yeah.
then what you do will come out later. Like, whatever, that's secondary.
Yeah.
Um, so really pushing back on that, but having the again courage, I think, is the big word coming up.
Mhm.
And that ties into sovereignty too. It's like knowing who I am, having the ability to say that, and knowing that it's not just for me, it's for my future employees and it's also for my future self, so I
Yeah.
don't get burnt out. And you know, so I have the ability to do these things in the future with longevity, because if I'm burnt out or if women are burnt out, then how are you going to sustain the company anyways?
Precisely. It's really that courage to pave the way, and I think I'm gonna butcher this phrase, but the premise is around when one woman kind of paves that way, it's for the collective, really, and the
Mm-hmm.
community behind her that are all feeling like ready to pave the way too. And that's oftentimes the feedback that I've gotten as well. It's like, well, you're doing it, so now I have permission to do it too. And if there wasn't leaders in this industry like you and I who aren't afraid to step into leadership roles as women and do it more of a woman forward way, then we would still be repeating same patterns of, again, like generations before us who, like, again, how are dealing with serious health issues because they haven't dealt with what it means to be a woman in business, what it means to be a woman in life, really.
Mhm.
And this is what I mean by, like, we can't separate and wear all these different hats anymore. We have to realize that everything is connected. And so you're doing yourself and your business a disservice when you're not also like speaking to all the aspects that impact women. And women's brains, again, like, are genuinely better in many ways as a leadership role because women are for the relationship and naturally more for the people, which to me is the definition of a leader. Is a leader is not what am I going to do to make this change? It's how can I help other people create a big change? It's how
Mhm.
can I sort of be there to support the other people in their expansion? And that's naturally the way the female brain is developed to operate. We're more nurturing, we're more relational. And when we partner with the masculine or the male brain, they're more going to be the implementers, the problem solvers, the get shit done one. And the balance of that too, I think, is such a beautiful way of operating. And when we can bring unity into that and understand and help men appreciate the way that women show up in business and help women appreciate the way men show up in business, like, man, the teamwork that is possible when we really truly revere and honor and respect each other's different ways of operating.
Mhm.
So much potential there, really, to bring that together and to bridge that gap big time.
Yeah, and I really feel like if this is not like a quote unquote woman problem, right? This is a situation that everyone would be remiss to look at
Yeah.
because women are the ones who carry children and the ones who do all that, and there's an issue right now going around with IVF and these kinds of things and infertility because women are working so much and because their testosterone is super high because we're operating in a man's world. So it really affects everybody and future generations and possibility of having kids or not, right? So it's not just a like, oh, women are like this or like that. It's like, well, no, women need to be the ones to keep procreating to fill the world, right? So um, what I see in a lot of men who have kids, they have softened and they do understand and they are more understanding of women who work, and they do really put that, first and foremost, especially when their kids are young, which is really beautiful and nice to see that men are taking time and men are not just business orientated so much 100%. And they
Hmm.
do have young families, so really that's been a big change that we've seen the last 20, 30, 40 years, is that men are super involved at home and they do want to do that because they
Yeah.
are helping support their wife as well, who also works and takes care of the family and the home and all these things. So while it is changing, it's like before before people even have the kids, though, it's like, where are we at with that so that we can continue having people procreate and not having these issues and getting people to true balance of everything that they want. And I mean, Canada is way better than the US for
Hmm.
maternity leave, paternity, all of that, but nowhere near as good as Europe.
Yes.
So where can we actually implement and foster that so we are growing communities, we are growing families, and we are giving back? Because if there's no legacy and there's nobody to give it to, what are we building everything for anyways? Right?
Precisely. Yeah, exactly. I
So,
think that's such a key point because really, if you're growing in your life, who are you doing it for? And I do think there is something to be said for yourself, grow for yourself.
mhm,
But again, what's the legacy that you're leaving on this planet? And who do you want to leave that to and what for? And kind of what do you want to be known for? And what do you want people to think of you like when you're not here? And how do you want them to perceive you? and experience you and feel about you, which kind of brings things back full circle to the beginning of this conversation of really like people remember how you made them feel, and
Hmm.
also the importance of knowing and having a community of people around you who will either nurture your spirit and or expand your growth and really push you to those next levels. And I think if there's any takeaway from this conversation, I just invite any listener to really tune into, are the people that are in your life expanders or do they make you contract? Are they the people that see you and your full potential, or are they people that want to keep you small because that's what they're comfortable with? Right? And then also, what do you want to be known for? What do you want this world to think of when they hear your name? And I have a moment of gratitude for you specifically, Laura, because you're one of the people that I called into my life when I was wanting more entrepreneurial women who were kind of go-getters in my world. And oh, I'm getting emotional even just thinking about it. You're also one of those people who really see me. Um, and I'm really grateful for that because you see what's possible sometimes when I can't. And I hope that you feel that from me too, when I see all the amazing things that you're doing in this world and the changes that you're making personally and professionally. And it's inspiring to be in the room with you talking about this. And this is exactly what we need is women need each other to really, again, push those next levels of growth and expansion and also just have these conversations around what's possible and what's next and dream together and like ideas and brainstorm together. Yeah, I really appreciate that you and I can have those types and these types of conversations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And likewise, of course, too. You said something there that really like piqued something in my brain. It's like the ability to dream, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's logical or not. So I live in an awesome apartment in a great neighborhood. I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like, people think I'm crazy. They're like, but your place is amazing and it's affordable. I'm like, yeah, but I feel the call to do the
Yeah.
next thing. I'm not sure where it will be, but I can kind of see it forming, right? I want to level up and do the next neighborhood, the next expansion, and all of that. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Why would I do that? But I'm following and trusting that pull.
Hmm.
It's not up to me to decide how it happens. It's just putting it out there and following those nudges, um, and continuing to have conversations like this. Be open, think about what's possible. Not even think, but like call in what's possible and dream about what's possible, because it truly all is possible. Everything is energy, and every single thing in life is energy. Money, relationships, everything's energy. And if our energy is like tight and stagnant, that's where it's going to be. And that's okay. Sometimes we need fear to help us and spur us. And sometimes we need to be around people who, quote unquote, keep us small so that we know we don't want that. And those people are valuable as well. And sometimes you can't move on from those people, whether it's family or friends or work colleagues. And on the other side, the people who do expand us, spending more time with those people so that we do feel like, oh, wow, there are people out there that are doing these crazy dreams that I have. Let's hang around them more. Not even how do you do it, just when you're in their aura and their field and their sphere, things are going to happen.
Hmm.
Situations are going to come up. I've seen that time and time again with all the places that I've lived in the world. It's like when you put yourself in the room becomes you as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and again, that's not to say to move on from people who make keep you feel small or whatever it is, because those people are very valuable as well. And those are
Hmm.
people you either give back to or learn the opposite from.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so, and that's obviously humility on both ends as well. And it's just really like, I'm not always growing. Like sometimes I just want to chill out and, have a drink and a boogie at the bar, but for the most part, it's like if it's not growth mindset and it's stagnant, that's like a bit uncomfortable in me, and also learning to sit in that discomfort.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all the things and none of the things and both at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of the nuance of all of this. It's like growth and also detachment from an outcome. It's growth, and also how can you be comfortable in stillness. It's growth, and how can you be okay with it being slower than you wanted it to be. Growth, but also like, oh, the lesson is that it's not happening. Okay, grief. Okay, growth, and
Yeah.
like it's sort of like an and conversation. It's all of it, right? And I think the true definition of this growth is ultimately just understanding that there is no one set way. And
Hmm.
when we let our heads get in the way, I think that can derail our capacity for what's possible. And when we live more in our hearts and we honor more of what's happening in our body and we trust our intuition, particularly as women, that's when really the shifts can happen. And that's where the true presence and true newness and freshness comes from. Our brains keep us in our past, our heads keep us in our past, our bodies are the only way that we can be present and then change what's possible moving forward from the present. And when we come to terms with that and realize, like, okay, thank you, brain, for keeping me alive. Thank you, brain, for like understanding the logic of the situation and solving the problem. But also, can I solve the problem from my heart instead of from my head? And I think that's a new wave forward that I want to ripple into this world. And I see that that's a big mission of yours too, is just like, how can we connect more heart to heart instead of head to head? And in these networking connection spaces, how can you and I bring in more heart and more fun and more play and more relational into these experiences rather than just what can you do for me, right? And how can we show up for, our clients and in our business and leading the way from our hearts? And that's really a perpetual question that I ask, and I know that you probably ask yourself something similar as well.
Yeah, it comes down to, again, courage. And, we're both into human design. So it really
Mhm.
comes down to like knowing your human design and knowing your alignment. I went somewhere the other day and I walked in, I was like, oh, this place doesn't smell good. And I left. And I
Yep.
was like, that's part of my design. And I trusted that and I left. And then my day was awesome and amazing and flow and easy. But if I had
What
put
part of your design was that, by the way, for anyone that's curious?
that would be the defined spleen. So I
Yeah.
have the fully defined spleen, which is like super strong. And so like the senses is like if I walk in and it's bright or smells weird or smells good, then you go in. But if it smells weird,
Right.
you leave. So that was the situation yesterday. And so I did leave, and then my day was just easy the whole day, and it was great, and it was like high flying basically.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, you can't always do that with commitments, but if you can remain in flexibility, um, then that's really helpful. And that's part of my design too, is remaining in flexibility because I'm the
Mhm.
emotional authority. So like not super committing and not holding true to things. Obviously there's things I have to hold true to, but within reason, and having the flexibility in that. But anyways, living according to your design and understanding who you are, how you operate, why you do what you do, not trusting your mind or your head because it's going to be influenced by everyone, everything, and everyone around you, but tapping back into that true source, your own sovereignty, and back to who you are to live according to what works for you and being in alignment.
Yeah, I love that. I think this idea popped in my brain, so I'm gonna just propose it to you that we probably need to do a fun episode just riffing off of human design because there's so much that we could chat and explore on that subject. Because we both, I think
Yeah.
this is actually how we bonded really early on, is just talking about human design, and connecting about those pieces and our experience with human design. So I think there's definitely gonna be another part two of this conversation that's gonna be design focused because it's been such a game changer in my life too, and I
Yeah.
know for you as well, and it's such a like a barometer for what next steps to take in life and how to know how to feel like your best version of self.
Hmm.
And it's just a great language and lens to look at yourself with neutrality and also with permission to like, this is how I operate and I'm going to own it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so human design is such a game changer to finding that level of alignment. So thank you everything for what you've shared, for everything that you've shared. And also I want to sort of kind of wrap things up here and check in with you. So what do you think that women in business need more of after this conversation, but also just in general? What do you think is missing and what do they need to learn more of?
Oh, good question. Truly, I think they probably already know enough. I think that's a big blocker that women have in
Yeah.
business is they're like, but I'm not an expert. I don't have the certification. I'm not this person. I don't have all the things. I'm like, if you like it, you enjoy it, you're good at it, you can kind of make some things up as you go along and learn other things along the way. uh, Women, when they apply for jobs, they're usually like way overqualified and ask for less money, and men are the opposite. They ask for more money and they're underqualified. So it's like, you know enough, is what I
Mm-hmm.
would say. In business and getting a job or whatever that is, you know enough to get started and learning things along the way. This is how we operate. This is what entrepreneurship is. This is what getting a job is. You pick it up. If you have the heart to do it in the interest, it will come easy for
Yeah.
sure. If you're pushing against because you don't even really want it, you're just doing it for the money, then it's not going to come easy.
Yeah.
But if it's truly following your heart, and I'm not talking about purpose or passion because I don't really believe in those things. I believe in, like, even the Starbucks barista can be passionate about what they do in a moment when they're connecting with community or whatever that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get hung up on, like, what's my purpose, what am I supposed to do, but I don't believe in that personally.
Yeah.
Trust me, there's a million things in my tech company that is not my purpose. But the greater vision of what I'm building is the the um the main driver.
Yeah.
It's like the North Star, which I have to continue to come back to. I don't even know if I'll ever get there, so am I ever actually even living my purpose? No, but I'm working toward this North Star that is the purpose for now. So
Well, and is the purpose a goal or is the purpose the lessons you learn to
yeah,
get there and you
perfect.
being you along the way?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. um yeah, so I don't know. I would say that. I would say women know enough to get
Yeah.
going, get started. And I see that a lot that I'm just going to continue talking about women, but it's men as well. But that they sell themselves short
Yeah.
because of self doubt. And I would say that none of that is even true.
Oh, yeah. We've been deeply conditioned to, you know, feel less than, not enough, or too much. And there's no middle ground in that. And so it's like either you are cocky and full of yourself and you're walking into the room and no one likes you because you are, again, quote unquote, like the boss babe energy, or you are meek and small and need saving and there's not really much in the middle. And it's like, how do we live in a society where we realize our worth, we realize who we are, and we realize what we know is important and what we have to say and our voice matters? And that's really my mission on this world, is to help women realize that, like, no two women are the same, and that's the beauty of it. That's why they can't put us in a box. That's why they can't
Mhm.
decide what path we're supposed to be on, because again, no one operates the same, but you're meant to do your different your way. And really, ultimately, that's why I encourage everyone to really find their own unique voice, because no one has your magic but you, right? You, Laura, have been the only one living your life. And so
Mhm.
the information that you will provide someone listening will be very different than what I would provide. And the support and the tools and the awareness is so subjective to your life experience. And
Yeah.
that's why we see the self-help book section or the business section with like tons of books on the same themes, but no one says it your way. And so if you're ever like doubting, like, what do I have to say? Or, you know, who am I? Or any of that stuff, if I use that thought as an indicator of a reason to say something, and that's the
Mhm.
catalyst of, like, you wouldn't have the thought if you didn't need to do the thing. So even the thought, the doubt is an awareness of something you need to do, right? That question of like, am I enough to do this? Is your intuition saying, do it, right? And when we realize that, right? Because if it wasn't meant for you, you wouldn't even have had the question in the first place.
And on the flip side of that, the way that you explain it is going to land with certain people that
Yeah.
they've never because this happened to me. I've heard the same thing a million times. This is years ago. And I was just like, man, it never landed. Then one person, this one chick said the exact same thing. And I was like, wow. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't say it any differently, but how she said it, who she was, who her energy was, resonated. Even though
Yeah,
I'd heard it a million times. I'm like, in that moment, at that time, from that person, that's what I needed to hear. And then I
exactly.
was like, a follower of hers and everything like that. And that shifted a lot for me. So it's on the flip side, it's like, if people are worried about who am I to say this, it's like, but there's people that are waiting for you to say this,
Mm-hmm.
waiting to hear it from you, even though a
Exactly.
million people have said it in the same way.
Exactly.
That's the other, yeah.
And the divine timing of that message is a huge component too, right? So many people in my coaching world say the same thing, but again, maybe you needed to say it in that timing for that person too. Because again, I even think about when I'm working with clients, I can tell them the solution, but when they come to the awareness on their own, and then I drop that little nugget of knowledge that I said maybe in session 2 or 3, now on session 10, they're like, holy shit, I didn't know. Da, da, da." And it's like, you did know it was
Yeah,
there, but you weren't ready to hear it yet. And this
that's
is the
it.
thing, like
Yeah.
your soul knows. And so you can hear all these and read all the books, but if you're not ready to embody it, and integrate it, it's just not going to land. And so
Hmm.
again, trust your divine timing of sharing those things too, because someone needs to hear it too. If you needed to say it, then someone needed to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which reminds me to just mention something really cool that you're doing, which is your podcast that you're launching, which I'm excited that I was a part of. So go listen to that episode and support Laura in her podcast. Because we both have lots to say, and we could probably talk a lot more about all the different things we have to say, but I am mindful of your time and our time. And also, I think we're going to have more conversations like this on here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love
Anything
it.
else that's coming up for you before we wrap up that you want to share with my audience?
Yeah, the podcast has been really interesting. It's been a creative outlet for me. I used to be a journalist back in the day, and so interviewing people is like super fun and easy for me. I have no, I don't even know where it's going to go. I don't need to. Maybe it monetizes, maybe it doesn't. That's okay too. I've put out a few episodes. I'm actually putting out another episode this week, so every other week is my goal. And it's just been a labor of love and a creative outlet. That's why I'm doing it. And I find that when we do things from this place, and again, I'm not attached, but this is often when good things come in and things just come out of the blue because I'm showing up in truth
Yeah.
and not for monetizing or, I don't know, getting cool people on my podcast. It's not even about that. Whether those things happen or not, it's fine. But I find that that's often I'm in the energy and in the synergy of flow and magnetism, and that's when things just come into the sphere. So yeah, it's been really fun. Started recording. You were my first guest, so thank you.
Yay.
Started recording back in the summer, and I'm launching every other Thursday. Yeah, so I've got content till the end of the year already recorded. So yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for doing what lights you up just for the fun of it and for the
Hmm.
joy of it. I mean, that's said like a true generator and manifesting generator in human design. Do what
Yeah.
brings you joy, do what brings you
Yeah.
satisfaction, do what brings you pleasure, do what lights you up. And I think I'm just gonna say, no matter your human design type, women, please prioritize, do what brings you joy, do what lights you up, do what sparks inspiration. Because again, that's like life force fuel for our bodies. And
Hmm.
when we're in that flow state, that's the magic that so many women are longing to reconnect to when they desire feminine energy. It's like that flow, that presence, that creator energy is exactly that spark that so many are looking to find. And so my invitation for all those who are listening, listen to those sparks and follow the joy and do it just because it's fun. and and you like doing it with no attachment to what an outcome will look like. It's just for the sheer joy of it.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. I love that. Exactly.
So one final question that I invite you to kind of tap in and tune in a bit, what is one truth from your heart that you feel the world needs to hear today?
Oh man. No pressure.
Well, tune in. You're an emotional authority, so trust whatever wants to come out.
I really believe in the human spirit. Um, I touched on that for like a few seconds there about, I know a big piece for you is music and big piece for me is sports. So it's like the flow state, which there's books on that, a lot of people have talked about it. It's um they remember that movie Soul, that cartoon,
Oh,
that
yeah.
Pixar movie,
Love
and
that
then
one.
right when he's in that thing, and then the people are in the flow state, and then their soul is like floating around. Like when you're in that moment, whether it's sports or arts or playing with your kids or animals or whatever it is, walking in nature, when you're in that moment and you're just not even there, you're not even thinking, it's pure presence, really, is what it is. It's pure. I just picture like the Care Bears, like hearts going like
Mhm.
bright. And that is, I can't remember what your question was, but that is really what I think it would be great if we could all aim to feel and to be in that flow state and in that without thinking, without judging, without being in body. On the weekend I went to a club, which I never go to clubs. So I was dancing. I danced on the dance floor for like hours, and I was like, somebody said, "Oh, she's like a little kid." I'm like, I didn't care. I'm in flow state. I'm just going for
Mhm.
it, literally in the moment. And that magnetism is what really draws people to you and you to yourself.
Yeah.
And so flow state, figuring out what that is for you, whatever that is, when you're not thinking and you're just in a moment of pure bliss. That's that's what I try to achieve as much as I can, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to add to that, for those who are listening, I would invite you to think about things in your childhood or even in your teen years or young adult years. What did you do just for the fun of it? What were those activities that you really enjoyed doing? And maybe prioritize that a little bit more than you have been. We can be grown-ups a bit too much, and we
Yeah.
need play to
Yeah.
balance our inner child out within us, but also just to make space for flow and make space for presence. Because again, people were commenting that you were like a child on the dance floor because you were in the zone and enjoying yourself, and that abounding energy that like never ends with children when they're having fun and they're playing. Like, I think that so much of our souls really long for those moments, and a lot of business, especially when we're in that like creative world or like creating something or building something, we can really get caught up in the doing of all the stuff
Hmm.
and not really prioritize the power of play and also rest and pause and all those components that really support expansion and growth. It's not just about getting all the funnels in place and all the emails perfectly written and all the strategy behind everything going, though important. It's not the only factor. And what Laura said in there was really about tuning into what your soul is asking you to do and what your body is wanting you to do and what your heart is asking you to play in, and making time for that and space for that is, and these are my terms, but is the key to your success.
Yeah, and honestly, like that, like even though I expended a ton of energy, that recharged me
Yeah.
more than chilling, because
Oh, yeah.
chilling's hard for me.
You
But
know, and that sounds like it's your natural state where it brought
mhm,
you to such a feeling that we can assume, and this is such a, I want to riff on this in general with a human design conversation, but it's such a piece of knowing that sometimes in our heads we can say, oh, well, that will make me sore to go for a hike, or that will make me be so exhausted the next day if I stay up to 2 a.m. or oh, I can't do that thing or go to that thing because I have a meeting the next day. And it's like, do you forget that like when you're having fun and enjoying yourself, it actually can give you energy and not take your energy? Like it can give you more than what you ever imagined. But instead, our adult mind's like thinking about tomorrow and thinking about the next day and how it will impact me and all these other components. It's like, just
Yeah.
live a little.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here, Laura. I really appreciate and respect you and have so much more to talk to you about on human design. So that's going to come soon, I'm sure. But again, just I'm very grateful to have you in my life and thank you for inspiring me along the way to follow my path in business and to more growth for both of us.
Yeah. Great. Cheers to that, man.
Cheers, cheers. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.